The most powerful currency in human history is losing its grip, and the people in charge don't want you to know how fast it's happening. Right now, as you read this, countries representing more than 40% of the world's population are actively building a financial system designed to make the US dollar irrelevant. Not in 50 years, not in 20. The architects of this plan are giving themselves a decade, maybe less. But here's what most people miss. The dollar isn't dying because it's weak. It's dying because the world got tired of being controlled by it. This is the story they're not telling you. Chapter 1. The King Nobody Elected. After World War II, the United States made a deal that changed everything. In 1944, representatives from 44 nations gathered in a small hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The war wasn't even over, but the winning side was already dividing the future. The agreement was simple. Every currency in the world would be pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar would be pegged to gold. America had most of the world's gold reserves, so America set the price. America set the rules. And every nation that wanted to trade with anyone for anything had to play by them. Then in 1971, President Nixon did something that should have ended the dollar's dominance forever. He broke the deal. He took the dollar off the gold standard completely. The dollar was no longer backed by anything physical, just trust. Just the full faith and credit of the United States government. The world was furious. But here's the part that still seems impossible in hindsight. It worked. Because by then, the dollar wasn't just a currency, it was infrastructure. Oil, the lifeblood of the modern economy, was priced in dollars. If Japan wanted to buy Saudi oil, it needed dollars first. If Brazil wanted to buy grain from Australia, the transaction settled in dollars. The entire global trading system ran on American currency, and that gave America a power no empire in history had ever possessed. The ability to print money and make the whole world pay for it. Chapter 2. The Weapon That Backfired. For decades, America used dollar dominance carefully. Then it didn't. After the September 11 attacks, the US began weaponizing the financial system. Countries that crossed Washington got cut off from the global banking network SWIFT, the messaging system that connects every major bank on Earth. Without SWIFT access, you couldn't send or receive international payments. You were economically isolated. It was the financial equivalent of a blockade. It worked on Iran. It worked on North Korea. And when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, America and its allies deployed it again, freezing $300 billion in Russian central bank reserves held in Western institutions overnight. It was the most aggressive use of financial power in modern history. And it was a catastrophic mistake, not morally, strategically, because the message it sent to every other country on Earth wasn't "Don't cross America." The message was this: your dollar reserves aren't safe. Your access to the global financial system isn't guaranteed. You are one political disagreement away from having everything you've saved, everything you've built, frozen or seized. China heard that message. India heard it. Saudi Arabia heard it. Brazil heard it. And they started making phone calls. Chapter 3. The alternative being built right now. BRICS. You've probably heard the name. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. What started as an economic acronym invented by a Goldman Sachs analyst in 2001 has become something far more dangerous to American financial dominance. In 2024, BRICS expanded. Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the UAE joined. Saudi Arabia was invited. More than 40 countries have expressed interest in membership or association. Combined, BRICS nations now represent over 35% of global GDP and more than 40% of the world's population. And they're building the infrastructure to trade without the dollar. China and Russia already settle the majority of their bilateral trade in yuan and rubles, bypassing the dollar entirely. India is buying Russian oil in rupees. Brazil and China struck a deal to trade directly in their own currencies. The Saudi Arabian government, America's most important energy partner for 80 years, is in active discussions about accepting yuan for oil sales. That last one matters more than almost anything else. Because if oil stops being priced exclusively in dollars, the entire foundation of dollar dominance begins to crack. But here's where it gets really dangerous. It's not just trade. BRICS nations are building a parallel financial messaging system to compete with SWIFT, a payment network that Washington can't touch, can't monitor, can't weaponize. Once that infrastructure is complete, the dollar sanction stops being a weapon. It becomes a wall America built around itself. Chapter 4. What the numbers actually show. Here's something the financial media buries every time it comes up. The dollar share of global reserve currencies, the currencies that central banks around the world hold as savings, has been declining for 2 decades. In 2000, the dollar made up 71% of global reserves. By 2024, that number had dropped to approximately 58%. Still dominant, but the trend line is unmistakable, and it's accelerating. Central banks bought more gold in 2022 and 2023 than in any two-year period since the 1960s. That's not a coincidence. When central banks sell dollars and buy gold, they're sending a signal. They're hedging. They're preparing for a world where the dollar is one option among many, not the only option. China holds over 2,000 tons of gold in its official reserves, and analysts believe the real number is significantly higher, hidden across state-owned entities and sovereign funds. Russia rebuilt its gold reserves after Western sanctions hit and now holds more gold than dollars. The message from both countries is identical. We are done depending on your currency. And then there's the digital wildcard. China launched the digital yuan, the ECNY, as a direct challenge to dollar dominance in international payments. It's already being used in cross-border transactions with several countries. It's designed from the ground up to be trackable by Beijing, invisible to Washington, a currency that moves at the speed of the internet with no SWIFT dependency, no American visibility. If the digital yuan becomes the preferred payment tool for Belt and Road infrastructure deals, China's $1 trillion global development program spanning 150 countries, the dollar loses relevance in an enormous slice of global commerce without a single shot being fired. Chapter 5. What replaces it? Here's the question everyone is afraid to answer directly. If the dollar loses its reserve currency status, what fills the void? The honest answer is nothing replaces it cleanly, and that's what makes this so dangerous. The euro is the second largest reserve currency, but the eurozone has its own structural problems. 17 countries, one monetary policy, no unified fiscal authority. It almost collapsed in 2012. It could again. The yuan is the obvious candidate. China has the world's second largest economy and is the biggest trading partner for most of the world, but the yuan isn't freely convertible. Beijing controls its value. No country wants to trade dependence on Washington for dependence on Beijing. Gold is making a comeback as a settlement tool between BRICS nations, but a gold-based system requires trust and coordination that doesn't yet exist between countries with competing interests. The most likely outcome isn't one currency replacing the dollar. It's fragmentation, a world of regional currency blocks, the yuan dominant in Asia and Africa, the euro dominant in Europe and the Mediterranean. The dollar still powerful but no longer universal, no longer unquestioned. And that transition from one dominant currency to a fragmented multipolar system is historically one of the most dangerous periods any global economy can go through. Because in the gap between the old system and the new one, trade slows, credit tightens, prices spike. The countries that are most dependent on dollar stability, many of them developing nations, get hit first and hardest. The dollar dying isn't an American problem, it's a global one, and the clock is already running. Now go check out the UBI experiment. What happened when countries gave everyone free money?